Good evening. How is your new year coming?
Great.
Great? Not drained already? It's forgot about the new year, everything? No? I'm going to share some of the quotes that I've been, recording myself and see the hope to that, inspires and brighten up the mood and conscience. I'm going to make it as a, who said it kind of quiz. Failure is not opposite, but part of success. Anyone?
Bezos.
Good try. Ariana Huffington. Success is going from failure to failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Winston Churchill. Good job.
Who is that? Sorry.
Winston Churchill. Sorry, I'll repeat that. This should be the easy one. Be the change you want to see in others. Gandhi. This goes back to the book that we've been reading about, the book about instinct. Intuitive mind is sacred gift. Rational mind is faithful servant. We created the society that honors the servant but has forgotten the gift. Einstein, about instinct to get to the quick decisions, which is the sacred gift that we all have. I'm going to quickly move on to something that I thought it was very funny. Love is the death of duty. Who said that?
I know I've heard that before, but
I'm going to give a hint.
It was probably
Game of Thrones character.
Oh, that I don't know.
Maester Aemon.
ah,
But I would like to say that it's actually blind love rather than just love. It's a good one. I also like to attribute something to this Toastmasters. Give, and you have the right to ask. Who said it? Was there anyone here? Larry. I was sharing that on the day that about how to improve in your social life as well as career life. You constantly give, and then you have the right to ask. And just want to end the quote with some spiritual quotes. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Tell me how. Close. Gandhi. And in terms of what actually comes out, we speak and communicate, but there's a lot that goes on, in our conscience. Silence is the language of God. Everything else is its true translation. You go meditate, you find the entire thing by being supernatural. And it's said by a Persian poet called Rumi. Have you heard of it? Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
We go into our speeches, our prepared speeches. The first speaker is Unu. She is going to be actually preparing herself for International Speech Contest. So her speech is entitled, Well, You Never Know, and she's asking for any comments to help her improve that. Unu?
One question had been stuck in my head for a long time. It was more than 15 years ago. I was approached by a classmate. He had his curious eyes, and very seriously he asked, why are you always smiling? Does good things happen to you every day? Quick fact about me, I have this default smiling face. Even when I deliver a sad speech, my evaluator told me my facial expression doesn't match my story. But this doesn't mean that I always have good days. I scratched my head and said to myself, why am I always smiling? And it came to my mind the day that I learned about a Korean idiom, life is like the old man and his horse. This phrase came from a story about an old man who lived in a tiny village. Although very poor, he had a beautiful white horse. The horse was splendid, strong. Everyone in the village coveted his treasure. People offered fabulous prices for an exchange, but the old man never sold his horse. One morning, he found that the horse was not in his stable. All the village came to see him. They said, "You old fool, if you had sold the horse, you could have gotten whatever price you wanted. Now the horse is gone, you've been cursed with misfortune." The old man didn't look so sad. He said, "Well, you never know." 15 days later, the horse returned. Not only had he returned, he brought a dozen wild horses. All the people in the village gathered around the old man. "Old man, you are right. The horse was a blessing. Congratulations." But the old man didn't look so happy. He said, "Well, you never know." The old man had a son, an only son. The young man began to break the wild horses. A few days later, the young man fell from one of the horses and broke both legs. Once again, all the people in the village gathered around the old man. They said, "Poor old man, the horses was not a blessing. They were a curse. They brought this terrible accident, and now you and your son are miserable." But the old man replied, "Well, you never know." It so happened, a few weeks later, the country engaged in a war with a neighboring country. All the young men in the village were required to join the army. The enemy was strong, and there was little chance that they would return. One was excluded, the son of the old man, who was injured. All the people wept. "Old man, the accident was a blessing. Our sons are gone forever, but yours is with you." And the old man replied, "Well, you never know." The story ends here, but it could possibly go on. And so is my story. Last month, my father visited me. My father and I are heavy travelers, so it has been a long time since we spent time with each other. I was excited, my father was excited, and so was my car. We drove a lot to travel all around during his stay. On the last day of the year, December 31st, we were heading toward DC. Looked like the weather also helped us, because the heavy rain stopped and it was drizzling. But it just so happened that my car skidded on the wet road. And in a split second, feeling like a minute, my car was crashed against the guardrail. The accident was severe enough to make my car a total loss. But that was not the important part. That night, on our way home, my father, who is not a man of an expression, silently held my hand. He didn't speak a word, but that touch spoke louder than any other words. Someone said I had a really bad day, and it was unfortunate to end the year like that. But Actually, that day was the most impressive day because I felt my father's love. And I got a new car. Events happen, and we tend to say, this is a curse, this is a blessing. But the only thing we know is that the event happened. The rest is judgment. I think stress and problems come from not from the event itself, but from the judgment that we make. The event itself is nearly neutral. Good or bad is the label that we put. No one knows what it will bring at the end. So when things happen, smile and speak like the old man. Well, you never know.
For our second speech, Andrew is going to be speaking. He's speaking from Pathways, Collaboration Level 1, Evaluation and Feedback, Effective ESL Teaching, or English as a Second Language. Andrew tonight will give a second speech on the Team Collaborative Pathway. The project is called Evaluation and Feedback. The purpose is to successfully incorporate feedback from this speech into the next speech, as well as to become an effective evaluator. The speech will be 5 to 7 minutes. Andrew will speak to us now about teaching English as a second language. His speech is titled Effective English as a Second Language Teaching.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. So, I'd like to ask you to raise your hand if you've ever tried to learn a second language. Okay, so that's just about all of us. So, I'm sure we all understand just how difficult that can be. I am certified to teach English as a second language, and I've taught ESL for about 4 years in Annandale, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. And I also volunteered with the Literacy Council in Northern Virginia during that time. Effective ESL teaching must involve certain aspects such as motivation, evaluation, grammar, and the 4 language skills, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So let's take a closer look at these different aspects of effective ESL teaching. An effective ESL teacher must ask the question, what is my student's motivation for learning English? Is it to pass a test, such as the TOEFL, or a test of English as a foreign language, which is used for college admissions? Or is it simply to live and become part of the community, to do business at the bank, order at a restaurant with confidence, or help their child with homework? These are all things I've heard from previous students. They've mentioned these as reasons for learning English. Why does this matter? It matters because it determines the context that are used within the lessons. The more I make the lessons resemble these scenarios, the more meaningful and effective the lessons will be for the students. Another important aspect of effective ESL teaching is evaluation. Another question that should be asked at the beginning is, what is the student's present skill level? In general, there are 3 main levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. In their book, Teaching Adults, an ESL resource book, the group Pro Literacy says, a skills assessment shows the learner's current English language listening, speaking, reading, and writing abilities. Why does this matter? This matters because the results of the assessment determine the resources that will be used and the concepts that will be taught. In addition, effective ESL teaching does not ignore grammar. Some wish they could ignore grammar altogether. However, grammar is necessary because it provides structure, meaning, and predictability. In this book, Teaching English Across Cultures, Robert Lotto wrote, quote, "There is no language without grammar, and none can be mastered without assimilating this grammar." Furthermore, English, when the grammar is proper, it can reduce noise in a message, and noise can distract and mislead from the intended message. Moreover, grammar notices the importance of naming the elements of the language, and that can aid and help in the process of learning itself. Finally, effective ESL teaching covers all 4 of the language skills. What 4 language skills are those? Those are listening, specifically active listening, speaking, which includes pronunciation, reading for comprehension, and writing. None of these areas should be neglected. So let's recap what we've learned here. We've shown how the students motivate the concepts and the context and scenarios that will be used in the classroom. Evaluation determines the resources that will be used as well as the concepts that will be taught. Grammar will be taught because it's crucial for constructing meaningful messages, and it helps with the learning process. And all 4 language skills will be taught because all 4 are needed to communicate effectively. So effective ESL teaching must involve motivation, evaluation, grammar, and 4 language skills. Thank you.
Our final speaker tonight is going to be Jerry. He's going to go ahead and turn the projector off. Jerry's got a presentation for us. Speaking from Pathways Innovative Planning, Public Relations Strategies. Speech title is We Are, capital letters, Maryland Proud. Jerry's here talking about public relations campaign he is currently putting in motion with the Penn State Alumni Association. Jerry,
I'm fortunate to be able to apply the lessons from the Toastmasters Public Relations project in my capacity with the Penn State Alumni Association. Right now, we're working on solving a problem that we have. When I think about the Penn State Alumni Association and what our mission is to connect Penn Staters to the university and to each other. Now, on my way down here this evening, I saw along the road some runners. I thought to myself, those are some crazy people. I mean, they had the light up legs things, and then the really serious people, full-on vests with a cross light-up jacket, they'd run through the mizzle, the snow, anything. And I thought, that is exactly how I can teach my audience tonight about the passion of Penn Staters and how important it is for them to get together, for them to celebrate the university that they love. The problem that we have is that locally I am the president of the Potomac Valley chapter of the Penn State Alumni Association. Our events and membership really focus in the Frederick area. The problem is that's our eastern border. A half hour to the north is our territory, and 2 to 2.5 hours to the south and to the west. Now, Penn Staters are known to like to have a beer or two. That puts our membership in jeopardy for their safety. And to be honest, people just are not willing to travel that far to hang out with some people at a dive bar. You've got dive bars in your backyard. There's no need to travel. That caused me to ask the question, Am I really delivering on our mission statement to bring Penn Staters together? And maybe are those Penn Staters better served by going to another chapter? So the public relations campaign that we've launched is really a two-step process. First, we have to play well in the sandbox. The way the Penn State Alumni Association is organized is you have the greater Penn State Alumni Association and then all of the local chapters. They provide the local chapters with snippets of their database that pertain to the territory of the local chapter. That has created a culture where we think in terms of boundaries and geographic barriers. Playing well in the sandbox means following our neighboring chapters on Facebook, on Instagram, on all social media platforms. It also means putting a link on our website to all of our neighboring chapters and encouraging our members that may work in the Washington, D.C. area that is not in our territory, that there's a happy hour or a networking event that may be of interest to them. Step 2 of the process is to have some top-down communication that highlights that it is the alumni person as an individual, their choice to go to the chapter of their choosing, to go to the event of their choosing, regardless of territory, regardless of boundary. They can belong to as many clubs, as many groups as they want. The important thing is it is their choice, and we need to do a better job of communicating that. And that's where it directly ties into the public relations project in Pathways. I've drafted a message for Penn State to disseminate, and it does highlight those issues. It says you have the choice of where you go, what chapter you belong to, what events you go to. And I believe it's going to be an effective campaign, in part because of what I learned. We're going to take some quotes from local chapters, expressing the gratitude of working with each other. We're also going to keep that messaging, the you message, that makes it about them. It makes it personal. And the fact that it comes from Penn State, who rarely sends that message directly, instead they depend on the local chapters to disseminate the information, that has more meaning as well. Because we're a little bit south of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is the epicenter of Penn State. It's nice to get the attention from our motherland. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Okay, here is the scenario for our table topics. A multi-international sales company is hiring a new sales manager. The person coming up is going to be handed an item from this bag, or can choose an item from this bag, randomly. You can't choose it. You can't look at it. And you are going to talk to and speak to the board of directors, that would be all of us, and try and convince us that you would be the best person for this job because you know how to market this, you know how much money you can make for the company, and you are dynamic, and you're going to get this job. So that's it, and you have to do it in 2 minutes. Oops, 2 minutes.
Guess you're welcome.
So are there any questions? Does anybody, I can't talk. Does everyone have the understanding of what you will do if you come up here and pick this wonderful... You have a question? Oh, what's your question?
Do I have to use the full 2 minutes?
No, oh, I should have said that. No, you do not. Because if you are so concise and so good, and you know you can sell yourself in 1 minute 30 seconds, go for it. Okay. Do I have any tape? Parsa, okay, come up. names you can ask.
Should I take it?
Yeah, just take one, find one.
Oh. How you don't even need this? Do you need me to convince you that you need stapler? I wouldn't. You need one on your table, right? Have one? Do you have one of these on your table right now? No? You have one? No? Really? Anyone? Then you should get one from me, right? We all want to present our work in a professional manner. We cannot just hand in papers to people, right? You want to present it in the right way. If I have a bunch of papers, I prefer it to be stapled, right? I will not want to just hand it to people in a messy condition. That's why I would, and it's a good brand, right? I guess that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. It's not easy. It's never easy. But that's what the challenge is. Do I have another volunteer? Yes, stop. That's supposed to look. Tell them what it is.
It's a glitter.
I'm so sorry. I know that John had been working on the glitter campaign for months. It was untimely of his death. This was a goal. The marketing of this product was his goal, his dream. As a manager, he was great. I loved working with him. I loved working on this project. And I can tell you that despite he's no longer being with us, I can bring this to market. I can make the country realize that glitter is the thing that will compel, that will entice. This will be our lead product for 2020. You have to let me give it a try.
So it's me. We have any more time? Okay. Okay, so we sold glitter and paper clips. Anyone else? Anyone? Oh, no. Do I have to call on some? Okay, come on. Come on, guys, clap.
These clips, let me just tell you, they are amazing. Have you ever seen a mother in a grocery store? You can't put a label on this. You can't tell somebody to buy a thingamajig. You can't minimize this because it can do so much. You can take that grocery cart, slap that clip on there, and it's going to hold as many plastic bags as you want. You're walking down the street, and your child is lagging behind, no more. These clips, let me tell you, can handle about 45 pounds, which means you ever have to carry those bags of dog food and one of those plastic loops falls off. It's really hard to manipulate. Oh no, this will solve that problem. You ever wear suspenders? No? You get a little overexcited. It's mizzling outside, and you're like, I'm seeing mizzle. Oh gosh! And then the suspender snaps and breaks. Oh, this. It's like super glue. It's better than super glue. Super glue can't handle 45 pounds. Super glue can't tether a toddler. This is going to change lives. Mountain climbers invented this. They could even probably make this light work. that hasn't worked all day, I don't think. In fact, let me give it a shot.
I haven't seen that one come on all day. I'm done with this clip because it sells itself.
Now, it's going to be tough. Our board have to make a decision. It really is. Mr. Toastmaster,
We're running way ahead. One more.
one more. Okay. This is an opportunity to show your selling talents. You can do this. Am I going to have to call on someone? It can be painful. It won't be painful. Okay, yes, we've got a salesman here. Yes. Okay, our last one.
Brad. You know, Anu came up and she was talking about smiling, or appearing to smile all the time, but sometimes she does have sad days. Have you ever seen a child with a sad day when they have a crayon in their hand? I mean, especially if they're next to a wall. Or in the bathtub. But see, these represent something about life in general, and that is that the simplest things always make the biggest difference. And these crayons, other than if they're dropped on the floor and stepped on, do make all kids smile. Not always parents, the wall thing, but they definitely make kids smile. Now, I want to tell you, as a parent and a grandparent, there's nothing I like more than seeing my kids happy, or my grandkids. And it's even more fun when I give these to my grandkids, because then I don't care what they do with them. As a matter of fact, it's kind of fun to watch what they do with them. So I strongly recommend that you take on someone, such as myself, who is a professional salesman. If I can sell a house, let me tell you, I can sell crayons, because I know where to start. See, it's kind of like selling a house. When someone comes into a house with kids, it's the kids that start picking the bedrooms. The parents don't have much say. Well, they got to pay for it. But same thing with crayons. When we give these to kids, let me tell you, how can a parent say no? And a grandparent would never say no.